Ensign Boimler calls the Gelrakians lightweights. We may have heard a subtle nod to the best captain ever. Of course, that's Captain Edward Jellicoe. And we begin the greatest holiday in the history of the Federation, Chief Miles O'Brien Week. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
We are joined by very special guest, associate producer, Mr. Homer Frizzell.
Hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and boy, this is it, man. Chief Miles O'Brien Week begins today. How you guys doing?
Yeah, it is Chief Miles O'Brien Week. It's funny, he's taking over the airwaves.
I know it. By the way, very quickly, we are reviewing Lower Decks, Season 1, Episode 3, Temporal Edict. And for more references about Chief Miles O'Brien, stay tuned. Later on this week, we'll also be releasing a Deep Space Nine episode that was Chief Miles O'Brien centric. So, I don't know. Did you guys have fun watching the episode?
Yeah, I did. This thing is starting to grow on me a little bit. I was a little hesitant in the beginning just because, trying to switch the pace up with Star Trek and comedy and trying to meld the two of them together. But I'm enjoying it now. It's starting to grow on me. I'm getting more familiar with the characters and they're expanding out, kind of like what we discussed in the last Lower Decks review that we had.
I got my wish.
You got your wish.
Yeah.
You wanted the expansion of other characters, and I think we're starting to get that.
Yeah, last week, guys, we were talking about how so far it's been kind of like Boimler and Mariner together, and then Bartendy and Rutherford together. And, we're kind of saying hopefully they'll kind of change that around because we don't want to see the same thing over and over and over again. Homer, how do you feel about the new, expansion of relationships of, Mariner going out with Commander Ransom, Boimler kind of dealing more with the captain?
Yeah. So I first off, I just want to say I didn't enjoy this particular episode as much as the previous two, but I did like the fact that, okay, we're getting to have this little bit of an association between the upper decks and the lower decks. And through that, we're learning more about both of the people on those decks. So I did like that, especially the scenes with Ransom and Beckett, Mariner.
Right. That's very interesting that you say that. First, I do want to tell everybody, guys, what we really appreciate from everybody listening in or watching is to just give us a quick subscribe. Go to our YouTube channel, click subscribe, click the bell icon for notifications so that you know when we're doing a new video. If you want to go to our Patreon, it's patreon.com/the7th rule. That's with the 7th, 7th rule. But really, the easiest, fastest, and freest way to help us is to just click subscribe, and we really appreciate it. But Homer, you said that this was your least favorite episode so far. I think this was my favorite of the three so far. So I think that's curious as to why. What was better in the first two that you didn't like as much in the second?
Well, I felt like in this particular episode, there was a bit more all about saying things from the original series. Whereas the other ones, it wasn't so much about saying it. You would see things, you had the batleth, for example, that was there. So it wasn't that talking about a batleth. In this particular one, and when I watched it, I had on the closed captioning, and he's hitting the big guy, Vindome? No, that's not
Vindor.
Vindor. Yeah. And he's doing his, I think it's a double fist, and he's doing, this is what I heard, and it could be wrong. He's doing Kirk, Spock, or at least that's what it sounded like to me. But really, it's like the sound that he's making. He's doing his own sound effects. And then you have Mariner, who's talking about, what am I, Kirk, in 2260, surrounded by
I thought that was a bit much. I felt like one or two sentences there would have been good, but they did like 4 or 5. I feel like so far that's the running theme for what I don't like about this show, is that they're doing too much. When she said, trial by spear, cool. I feel like Kirk, that would have been cool. Or what is this, the 2260s? That would have been cool. But instead they hammered the joke home 5 times. And that
yeah. I could tell you my 2 favorite parts, unless that comes at a different.
No.
Okay. So first off, Boimler and his song titles. I mean, Requiem for a Hug.
Yeah.
He has to be seeing a counselor on this ship or something, or should be, I think. And then the other one, and it's shortly thereafter, you have the Klingon Bird of Prey, and you have Captain Freeman who's saying, like, cut. And then it's really quick, but if you take a look at the control panel, there's like this big sort of red speaker icon, like from today's day and age, and it turns red and there's an X next to it, which is the classic mute symbol, I think, from now. And so I love the way that was there with everything else.
Good catch. I didn't hear the Kirk Spock. I'm going to have to go back and re-listen to it. But what I did hear, and I thought was really funny in that moment, first of all, I thought it was hilarious that he punched Vindor and Vindor pukes. I'm like, that's just funny. Like,
that's Cirroc, is that funny, really?
That's a little bit of some kind of comedy. Yeah.
It is some kind of comedy.
It is some kind of comedy that's not indicative of Star Trek, but is indicative of this kind of humor. And so I thought that worked in that. I mean, if I saw it in Star Trek, I'd be like, what the, did they just, well, I guess this is Star Trek, but you know what I mean?
I do.
If Captain Picard punches a Romulan in the new Picard series and the Romulan goes, Blair, I would be like, that's pretty dumb. But what I did find especially was cool was at the end when Ransom was about to finish off Vindor and he goes, hands clasped together, which we always think is such a funny Star Trek move. Like punch, double axe handle.
Yeah, they did a lot of the double fist, the double
what?
the double hand punch, the 2-hand punch. But I don't know. I actually like this episode. I have to agree. I thought it was one of the better episodes. Because now that I feel like I'm in the groove with him, this guy Ransom, is that the guy who took his shirt off and he had to 6-pack? Yeah, I thought he was hilarious in this episode.
Totally.
And I thought that he makes it because he plays well off of Mariner's character. Right. And I also feel like he's now going to segue the relationship that we predicted between Boimler and Mariner. I can see it more being between Mariner and Ransom.
And I love that they set up kind of that love-hate relationship there too. That was a really smart way to do it, especially because the things that attract them about the other one is so funny, because she's like, super tough and strong woman. And she's watching this guy and like hate watching him. And then she's just kind of like, ooh, that was hot. Yeah. Wait, what's my problem? And then when she's yelling at him and saying, I'm going to dance in your blood. And he's like, whoa, that was kind of hot. Suddenly, all of a sudden he's like, well, actually, let me take a look at this little firecracker.
Yeah.
Homer, you didn't like that?
I did like that. I was a little worried, at the end in sickbay, and I felt like someone was leaning in for a smooch there. And I was like, oh no, don't go there. Yeah. And they didn't. One thing that I liked before, and this is a Ransom line, it's roll down your sleeves. This isn't a barn.
Yeah. I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it too. Yeah, he had a few lines. One of the other ones was we don't go until I give the order. And then he had this long pause.
And he says,
let's roll.
Yeah, that's his move right there. Everybody has a thing, engage or whatever. He goes, let's roll.
And I like that. I thought that was hilarious, especially the pause in between there. Like, I'm not going right now. I'll wait 3 seconds.
I thought that was Ta'ana that had those. Hey, thanks. But I do want to say, though, I have kind of feared, and it's starting to come true, that I feel like I'm going to like the upper deckers better than the lower deckers. Because they're just, to me, they're just funnier so far. Like, they're such caricatures. What's his name? Ransom is basically like a Kirk Riker hybrid, you know, like the hyper testosteronal, dumb as nails, tough as, I guess, nails, you know, and just like, he's just like a dude's dude, you know, that has no brain, you know, and Freeman is like a hard ass, and she's just like, she just wants to get things done, and she's kind of annoyed that she has to work on this crappy ship and do these stupid missions, you know, and obviously Tana is a cat, and Shax is like the ultimate caricature of like Worf, where he's just gonna be like, let's blow up everything, and she's like, what? No, that's ridiculous. What are you talking about? I don't know. I like it.
Yeah, well, I think that one doesn't work without the other. I mean, that's what makes them lower decks, is because they have to be compared and contrasted to the people that we see on the upper deck. So I think that dynamic plays well. We can still keep the main focus on the younger characters, the up-and-coming people, but I think it plays well when you have the authority or the more senior Starfleet personnel kind of doing their own version of dumb stuff.
Right.
So I like that.
It's also easier to have a secondary character be so extreme, because it's hard to have a main character be so extreme if they're like kind of a one-trick pony. You know, for example, like if you're watching Seinfeld, Kramer could not be the main character because he's so extreme, or he's in one direction, you know, so much. So you can have the secondary characters be these kind of one-trick ponies, and it's okay. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I do have a little problem with this episode as far as the captain on this ship, Mariner's mom, being a little bit clueless, because it's just like, you're the captain. It's just she was completely oblivious to the fact that, you know, people were being overworked or whatnot. I know it's still comedy, but I think it was a little bit too far on that front, because I think they've established her as a smarter person than that. So it's kind of, I did like to throw the cell phone at the screen moment where she was pissed and she just throws her phone when the communication ends. I love that. I thought that was a little hilarious insert. There were a bunch of little inserts like that you know, I thought were great.
Yeah, I like the sound it makes against the view screen too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I do like the juxtaposition of the upper and lower decks, and we do get that. And we get like Boimler, for example, and he's in the turbo lift with the captain, and he initially says captain, and he corrects himself, captain. Like, he's so uptight, so nervous there. And then afterwards, we also get him being tackled as he comes up there at the end. And of course, I want to say Drax, but that's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Shax,
thank you. Screws up his name.
Shacked in a fool.
And calls him Brimler. I think
Brimler, yeah.
They're always getting his name wrong. Yeah, what did she call him? She called him like Buffington or something like that.
Oh, not this episode, but before.
Episode,
I think that they have to get his name wrong every single episode. If they don't, I'm going to be disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing that I like too is, like I said, there was a bunch of good things. So this is also a credit to the writers who are making this stuff happen, because, you know, you've got the animators on one side who are doing a pretty good job as far as keeping it consistent, and it's visually stimulating. But I like the writing. And, you know, for example, there was a moment where Mariner said, "Permission to speak freely." And I love Ransom's like answer to her. No one can stop you from speaking freely. That's the problem, you know? So I like those. I like that dynamic in between the characters. And then, you know, the other little jokes, like the Federation wood lovers. You know, I love that whole little thing. Yeah.
And then there's the one that I was waiting for Ryan to mention, but I don't know if you will. So I'm just going to do it. Oh, okay. So I'm going to not say it.
No, go ahead.
So they do not beam down to the planet. They take the shuttlecraft, and it's taken off autopilot, and Ransom pilots it in, not some of his best work. And Vendome, I should look that up to see if that comes from something else. But anyway, Vendome has the case.
It's definitely a French name, actually.
See, with the crystal, supposedly, but instead it's a sex totem from their adversaries.
A sex
And
what?
so, yeah, I know, a totem.
Oh, totem. Phew.
And
Never.
the Galax, I think it is, they oh, and here comes Melissa. This is great timing. Say
Gelrak.
he's got wood. He's got wood.
Yeah. Eh. I will say,
I thought that
though,
was kind of funny.
I will say that
I thought it was funny too.
my favorite aliens, man, the Bolians. And remember, we got another one of Ryan's wish list. First, I was saying, look, we've got to have the crew interacting with other people. I don't want to see 2 and 2 forever. This isn't Chuck Woolery. And so nobody likes that one? Okay, whatever. They can't all be winners. Yeah, thank you. And but the other thing I really was hoping for was that these tertiary characters, you know, like that Bolian sitting in the corner, will actually get lines. Because otherwise, all they are is eye candy. All they are is people going, whoa, check it out. There's a Bolian over there. Whoa, check it out. There's a guy. There's a thing. There's a what's it, you know? But they actually gave him lines and a name. And he actually had like a character personality, not just saying, yes, sir. And I was really happy about that because I love seeing these extra characters and learning more about them. We never learned a ton about Bolians before. We got 2 episodes of Mr. Mott in Next Generation. We got one Bolian lady with half of a haircut in a Next Generation episode, right? Or was it Voyager? I don't even remember. Anyway, she had the hair kind of like this. I feel like it was Next Generation. Anyway, so I'm getting my wishes. And another one of my wishes was that the characters be less obnoxious. Because if somebody's annoying, then I'm going to be annoyed. And watching Mariner and Boimler, the first couple episodes, is borderline annoying. And less annoying in the funny way and more annoying in the annoying way. And this time, they were a little less. You know, Mariner was also funny. Boimler almost had a personality change in this 3rd episode. The first 2, he's like nervous Nelly. And this time, it's kind of adjusted into not nervous Nelly, but instead, you know, Red Bull Ray or whatever. Yeah. So that was a little inconsistent, but at least it was more fun to watch for me personally.
I did see a character adjustment from him because he did seem to have more confidence in this episode, where he started off a little bit insecure of himself and like, what do I do next?
He was a wreck.
And yeah, and now he's like, I finished all my things and I got more stuff. You know, give me something else to do. So I was a little bit overconfident on his part.
Right. Whereas the first 2 episodes, Boimler would be the one freaking out the hardest at the time. Like, oh my God, I don't know what to do, you know?
Yeah. But what I really liked about this episode was the fact that this Ransom character, now, I don't remember seeing him before, but he was obviously here, right? Is that?
He was one of the characters I wanted to see more of. He was the one that became a zombie initially in that previous episode. And we've hardly gotten any lines from him at all, but Jerry O'Connell voices him, who's a pretty famous guy. So we know that he's going to be more than that. Eventually we're going to see, you know, some of his lines and his character break out, which we did, in that previous episode when he turns into a zombie and says, did I eat human flesh? And they're like, only a little bit. Anyway. So he's going to have a real role.
So he wasn't really in his character yet.
Correct.
We didn't really get an idea of his personality and who his character would end up being like. I think it matches well because he's almost a one-up on Mariner, who was to me a little bit even too much in the beginning. She started off like with more almost authority than the captain.
Everyone.
Everyone. It's like, you know, the admiral's calling him like, what are we going to do about this girl? And so it made me seem like, okay, she's got too much focal point on her, and her energy is almost too overpowering, overbearing for the show.
Right.
That's why it's good to have somebody like him kind of try to one-up her, which neutralizes her effect as well. So I think that's a good energy kind of balance, you know?
That's a good point, yeah. So we're going to take a quick break in just a second, but here's a quick teaser for you. I have saved the two things that number one was, I believe, to me, was possibly the funniest moment so far in the first 3 episodes. And also, stay tuned for a little nitpick. You know, a little, I get very nerdy and nitpicky about things.
All right.
Homer is not looking forward to it.
I can't wait.
Oh, good. Well, then forget the break. So, no, all right. What have I done? All right. All right. So we'll talk about that just right on the other side of the fastest break in the history of Wormhole Aliens on the 7th Rule. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the 7th Rule with Cirroc Lofton and associate producer Homer Frizzell, Commander Homer. My name is Ryan T. Husk. We are reviewing Lower Decks, Season 1, Episode 3, Temporal Edict. And let's, what do you guys want? You guys want to talk about what I think is possibly the funniest scene so far, or at least in my opinion, or a little nitpicking?
Nitpick.
Okay. Calm down, everybody. Calm down. Oh, so much love.
Yeah.
Okay, look. And this kept bugging me throughout. So it's an Ensign Lower Decks tradition to use this buffer time, right? So are we correct in assuming that all lieutenants, all commanders, and yes, all captains have started out their careers as ensigns? So how do they not know about buffer time? How does nobody know about buffer time except for ensigns? So as soon as they graduate to lieutenant junior grade, suddenly they forget all about buffer. It's like they have amnesia for the rest of their lives. What's up with that?
That thought had crossed my mind as well. And I think it's just that, extra margaritas during the buffer time that led to them forgetting about buffer time.
Okay. A little in-universe explanation.
I don't have a good explanation for that one. Transporters.
Yeah. The only thing I could say is the language. The language would change. You know, like the younger generation calls something. They'll say, "Oh, that's on fleet or fleek."
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's what we used to call cool, or somebody else used to say that was rad or
bad.
Yeah, so maybe the language of it changed, but I don't think the concept of it would change. I think we're all used to the idea of, working at our own pace. I like the way they said creative estimation.
Right.
So you creatively estimate how long it's going to be so that you actually look like the hero when you finish it early.
Right.
And it also gives you that buffer time. So, I mean, the concept is actually a real one that does, I think, affect productivity at the workplace. I think it makes sense.
Definitely.
When people are forced to do something at a ridiculous rate, and they don't get the chance to enjoy themselves or relax or pace themselves, for coffee breaks or whatever it is, then yes, you will create stress.
Right, which brings me to the other half of that nitpick. The first half, I did kind of think about that. Maybe they just changed the term or they deliver it in a different way. But when let's say a lieutenant commander, chief engineer says, "Hey, how long do you need to recalibrate those power couplings?" And the guy says 4 hours. Let's not forget that the chief engineer has also recalibrated power couplings in his or her day. So they would say, I'm going to call bull on that one because I know that it shouldn't take more than 40 minutes. And if you're saying it takes 5 hours, then we need to transfer you to a different department because you are not good. So that's the other side of it is let's not forget that they know how long these things generally take. Anyway, I mean, I don't really think there's an answer for that. I think that's just like kind of what we call leave your brain at the door viewing, which is just kind of like, hey, just have fun, enjoy the ride. Don't try to think about it too much, which isn't easy for Star Trek fans.
Yeah, specifically with this particular, that's why I said it's hard to gear your mentality for watching a comedy, because you have to suspend belief in a lot of different places and just accept certain things as what they are. So yeah, I totally agree with that. But you can't really think logically under these circumstances because, once again, they're just trying to put on a comedy show, and they can't really get the same criticism when you say, well, that doesn't make sense, or this couldn't really happen, or that's not, feasible. But yeah, I totally agree with you that everybody would be aware of it. It could have been explained away better. It could have been explained from pressure coming from higher ups in Starfleet that were kind of trickling down, and not that she was unaware of what it is, but kind of like we're being forced to double our productivity. So, this is what we have to do because Starfleet is being really dumb right now. They could have explained it away a little bit differently instead of it being like, what is this buffer time? I don't know. So yeah.
Let's talk about Easter eggs too, by the way, but because there are a ton of them in this one. And look, when somebody's just mentioning somebody's name, that's barely like when they're like Kirk, Spock, Worf, I'm like, is that even an Easter egg, or are they just like throwing happy balls at our head, Yeah. Like, but this one, they delivered them really well. Like when Ransom is talking about going on away missions, he's like, you never know what you can run into. He says horned gorillas and sentient tar. Now, horned gorillas are the Mugatu of the original series, and sentient tar is Armus from
Nice.
from Next Generation, which killed Tasha Yar in the first season, we're assuming, or could mean also the possible aliens in Discovery that we saw in the second season. Remember the tar alien guy that could be them as well. Don't remember what they were called. There are a few things. There was also something that, some people also said that when the alien ship attacked, we heard the theme music from Best of Both Worlds. I didn't catch that, but that was said by multiple people, so it's got to be true. Yeah.
That actually reminds me of something else I meant to bring up again when Boimler is in the turbo lift. I think he was humming the theme to The Next Generation.
Right.
Yes, he was.
Mm-hmm. That's another great one. That was another great one.
Or you could say the motion picture, whichever way you want to put it.
That's right. And some people also said that they heard an original series episode song being played like a jazz version in the episode at one point as well. There are a lot of little things like that. Now, the other Easter egg, now this one I'm not even sure if it really is, but they said, Delta Shift is probably who the people that ratted on us. Right. And they think they're so much better than us just because they're so much better than us at everything, which was funny. Delta Shift, not really an Easter egg or a nod, but I'm going to take it as a nod to Captain Edward Jellicoe, also from the Best of Both Worlds, right? So that's interesting if there are two nods of the same episode in the same episode, because he wanted to get everybody into a 4-shift rotation, adding a Delta shift. That's fun for me.
And I leaped to Animal House there, so I was way off. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Delta House, I think it was.
Got it.
Okay. I also like that. I'm going to be completely off track on this one, not in line with what you guys are both talking about. But
the nerdy stuff.
Yes, but there was a moment there where one of the upper deck people was talking to the lower deck. I think it was Mariner. And he's like, yeah, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do that. And she's like, well, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm commanding.
It's pretty important.
I'm commanding. I mean, obviously, I'm busy telling you what you have to do. So I like that.
That's good.
Oh, the other little silly line there was the cat doctor. What's the cat?
Yeah, Dr. Ta'ana.
Ta'ana, yeah. She's like, hey, Mariner, you want me to fix up all those scars? She's like, no, leave them. They're battle wounds. And she's like, oh, yeah, well, congratulations. You look like a scratching post.
Totally.
That was hilarious, too.
I want to give a shout out to our buddy, Mr. Andre Kottman, who, as soon as he saw, you remember Andre Kottman, we watched some Discovery episodes at his place in Glendale. And when he was watching it last night, he sent me a message and he said he screamed at that part. he loved that line so much.
Yeah, me too. I literally laughed out loud. I thought it was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, you look like a scratching post.
So I will say a scene that I thought was the funniest. I didn't laugh out loud on it, but I just enjoyed the concept the most of any of the first 3 episodes. And that was when Shax and the mustachioed security officer played volleyball with the body of an alien. he hits him, and the guy does like a full set, like he sets him like volleyball, and then he spikes him onto the pile of bodies. And that leads you to believe that they've done it to a dozen other aliens because they're all in a pile. And I'm just like, that is such the ultimate disrespect for sentient life, is to beat them up in the form of an actual sporting event. Like they're just like, volleyball. I don't know. That was so funny because of the disrespect level. You know, I love disrespect. You guys didn't love that one? I thought it was very funny.
No, I didn't even pay attention to
that
particular aspect. The thing that I was a little bit, and this is not the funniest thing, but this is something that caught my eye when Mariner was starting to strip and show all her battle scars, and she was down to her bra. I was like a little bit uncomfortable with the.
It's already the second time they've done this.
Yeah, and I was like, I hope they stop here, because she was starting to, and they need to keep this PG. That was one thing. I like the joke of the captain to Boimler when she said, you know, we had this great problem, but the only thing that could solve it was through the eyes of a child. And so she completely reduces Boimler down to that. And then
that's her Boimler-plate response.
Oh boy.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, Boimler.
Yeah. And then when Boimler is talking to her on the bridge, talking about how she has a great crew, you know, they're human, they're Bolian, they're whatever, but they can do the work, and you're a great captain. She hears the "you're a great captain" part of it. Yes. I am a great captain. Nothing about the crew. Yes. No.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
I do feel like there are more funny parts in this episode than the others. Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, I was just thinking of, I don't know if it's necessarily funny, but it was a kind of, maybe it's just the juxtaposition. So you have Ransom and you have Mariner, and they're in that prison cell, and it's fighting over the sword and who's going to take on the big guy. And she says something like, sometimes you have to do wrong in order to do right, or something like that. And he's like, he realizes at that moment, yes, you do. And his voice goes down. And then without looking at her foot, it's through her foot. And he's like, wow.
Yes.
Totally surprised her. But I thought he grew in that moment. And she grew before, when he talked about, it's not my team, it's our team.
And he goes, he's like
those moments.
Surprised you don't see it that way. Or, he's all like trying to really, it's a teaching moment, young lady. Let me go ahead and, that's exactly. Especially because you're right, that stab to the foot was kind of doing a Mariner move to Mariner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's probably why she kind of got smitten by him. She's like,
that's why she liked him. Yeah, right. She liked that move. Yeah.
Can I also mention one other small detail that I thought was really funny, and I just like these kind of subtle but clever, things that are like little details, but I think it's funny, is when there are these two officers walking down the corridor, and Captain Freeman is walking by, and she sees them. As they're walking, one of the officers is scratching his ass.
I didn't notice that. I'll have to go back
I know, like, he's walking along, and I'm like, wait, is he scratching his ass? That's funny. And I went back and I watched, you just watch, they're talking, he's like, blah, blah, blah. And he's just scratching his butt while they're walking by the captain. And I'm like, no wonder she's stressed out. Look at what she's dealing with. These guys are walking by her, scratching themselves.
Yeah. I also like the little graffiti that they had everywhere, the alien graffiti.
Totally.
And then when he used his translator to see what it said, it was like, you wood-loving something or other.
And by the way, phasers can now remove graffiti.
Yeah, if you have them on set on graffiti removal.
Bark hugging root smoochers.
Yeah. Yes, bark hugging root smoochers.
That's an insult.
It sounds like a hippie.
Yep.
Right? Bark hugging, right?
Yeah, root smoochers, huh?
Well,
yeah,
it's pretty good though.
Yeah.
That's pretty solid.
I mean, there was some stuff in there. When they ran into the alien species and they said, well, if you lose the battle against Vindor, then we're going to have to crush you with this thing. And it's like, basically, it's a giant crystal.
I'm seeing a lot of blank faces here. Maybe I should explain what this crystal does.
Yeah. So there were a lot of stuff like that. Yeah.
I wonder who voiced that character, because he
was hilarious.
Totally.
Guy, right?
I checked IMDb like I always do with that kind of stuff, and the names are not up yet. They really refresh the IMDb or update it like a few days afterwards, maybe because there's spoilers there. They don't want you to see Jonathan Frakes is there or whatever, So we'll have to wait a couple days, because I especially wanted to see who voiced Vendome, the Bolian.
Right. I know from last week, the Ferengi was voiced by, I think it's Tom Kirby is the name of the guy that does SpongeBob SquarePants.
Right.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, somebody's probably doing that I may have heard of.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of Ferengi, we also did see the Ferengi in this episode, and the
two of them, yeah.
At the very end, the two Ferengi in the classroom learning about the Great Boimler and Chief O'Brien, right? With
the Great Bird of the Galaxy, which is a nod to Mr. Roddenberry. But everybody leaned in when they said, the greatest person in the history, the most important person in Starfleet history. We all leaned in because we knew they weren't going to be like, Sally Smith. We'd be like, why? What? But you knew it was going to be a name that we all know and recognize. So we all leaned in. And this made me very sad, because when I heard that, I was like, man, I wish I could see Cirroc's reaction, because I think you reacted pretty well at that moment. Like gave it a laugh or gave it a, yeah, you get him, call him.
Yeah, especially coming off of watching the DS9 episode that he was heavily featured in. So it's like, wow, call him again. He's
O'Brien week, man.
That guy is everywhere. He's on every show.
He's in the future. He's in the past. He's in different series. He's the greatest person in the history of Starfleet.
Yep. Predicts Dabo.
He's pretty damn special, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. Like I said, it's starting to grow on me. And I think they have something that's going to be successful in the long term as long as they keep it fresh and keep the blend of new stuff, stretching out the kind of concepts that we're used to, but making it more exaggerated, and then also building relationships between these upper and lower deck characters. I think it's going to be successful.
I'm going to check to see see if there are a couple more little Easter eggs real quick while we have a couple minutes left, because there were
so I have a question for you guys in the meantime. Mm-hmm. So I've noticed the names of a couple of the shuttlecrafts. They seem to be just named after U.S. national parks. Is that something we've heard about before? It seems like the Federation might be a bit more global, perhaps universal than that.
Right. Well, I mean, they are, but they can also have a line about,
true
national parks.
So the Cerritos could just have national parks. Yeah, I saw Yosemite, Death Valley, and then there's another one in the shuttle base started with a K. I'm not sure what that would be.
Mm-hmm.
Keystone.
Hey, there we go.
Yellowstone, or are we talking beers, or are we talking
We're
national
talking
parks?
park.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question though. You said the bird that was on Boimler's arm on the statue was a nod to Roddenberry. I didn't get that.
Yeah, because she said with one of the great birds of the galaxy, and Gene Roddenberry is called the great bird of the galaxy, or the great bird in the galaxy. It's just kind of one of his nicknames. And so when she said that, it's definitely deliberate. It was a nod to him.
Okay. I didn't know he had that nickname, the great bird of the galaxy.
Mm-hmm. It's a cool one.
Yeah.
So that was most of the Easter eggs. I mean, I'm sure there are a bunch of others. Somebody else caught the Delta Shift Jellicoe thing, which is great. So I do want to say, everybody in the comments below, please tell us what other Easter eggs we missed, or even what Easter eggs you think may have been a subtle nod. Like the Great Bird of the Galaxy was definitely Roddenberry. Delta Shift might be a Jellicoe thing, might not. But the fact is, if they're doing the Best of Both Worlds theme song in a battle, then it's probably a higher likelihood that was a nod to Jellicoe, because he was in the Best of Both Worlds.
Yeah, and less likely Animal House.
But let us know in the comments below if you think it was Animal House.
Well, so one thing I remember, like Mariner's talking about her scars and all of the battles, and she had said pretty much she's been in lots of high concept fights.
Right.
So it's very much like you're thinking of Arena, you're thinking of the Gorn, Kirk, like that kind of stuff. And then she also mentions, I want to say it was, did she say
Scottsdale?
Fresno or Sacramento?
No, it was somewhere in Arizona. I think, was it Scottsdale?
Yeah, it was Arizona. That sounds right. I think it was an S. Yeah.
I think it was Scottsdale. I don't remember. But it was definitely Arizona.
She was talking about a fight she had in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
See, they're
all strung together.
It's hard for me to catch up. Yeah. Yeah, you literally. I guess I have to start watching it with the subtitles on, because I think
you do. It helps. It definitely does.
I had to.
Because a lot of the words
say the Kirk Spock.
Especially Mariner, she's a quick talker. So you know,
one thing I noticed, and this is not an Easter egg, it's just something that I think I noticed, and I would love to know if I actually missaw it, and I can go back and look. But in sickbay, Mariner throws some stuff, kicks over some stuff, and I think one of the things that she throws at Ransom is a chamber pot.
Interesting.
I didn't see that.
Here are a couple more that I missed. One was the Omicron spores. I think that may have been the reference made to like making out with your best friend's sister or something like that. That may have been Omicron spores. But the other one that I did not catch, and I actually listened for, was Baryon Sweeps. And Baryon Sweeps, I think, was an episode Starship Mine with Tim Russ. Guest starring in that one, which was awesome. And Next Generation. Did he?
I think it was a Rutherford line.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he mentioned,
but it was like
Sweeps.
Zipping through a bunch of stuff, I think. Yeah. I feel as though he did.
It must have been. It must have been exactly then when people were saying, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got all this stuff going on.
Yeah, and it was good. It was also good to see like Mariner wasn't completely in control. Like when there was no buffer time, when she couldn't have that extra margarita a day, she was as stressed out as everybody else was trying to get stuff done.
You raise a very good point, and that's something I really want people in the comments below to mention. Dude, really, margaritas frozen? Come on the rocks, right? Let us know in the comments below, on the rocks or frozen. I feel like this is more important than like the pineapple pizza debate. Like, what about you guys? On the rocks or frozen?
I don't think there's a pineapple pizza debate. You're just trying to keep it going. I think frozen is just crazy. And if the rocks, I would even say shake it first and then don't put it on rocks. Who wants to have it diluted later?
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Cirroc? On the rocks?
I'm up for frozen things. So.
It is a debate.
I don't even know you.
This is so juicy now. Boy, oh boy.
I do my daiquiris, my margaritas. It doesn't really matter. Frozen is good. especially on a hot day.
You guys got to
At least we agree on pizza.
This is the most important thing ever in Miles O'Brien week. Miles O'Brien's like, whichever one's got scotch in it. That wasn't an impression, by the way.
And he likes coffee in the afternoon.
Anyway, I'm sure there's a lot more to be covered. I did like that there was a benzite mentioned.
What about you? You're on the rocks, guy. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. I feel like, I mean, when it's frozen, then you're consuming more ice, you know, and so which means that the flavor's being diluted. So that's maybe more refreshing. So maybe on a hot summer day, it's going to be more refreshing. But if you are enjoying the actual flavor of the beverage, like a daiquiri is going to have to be frozen. Nobody's going to drink a daiquiri, you know, on the rocks unless there's some kind of, you know, cannibal or some weird thing like that. You know, some kind of sadist or masochist or monster. But, you know, when it comes to a margarita, the flavor of a margarita on the rocks is actually good. No need to, you know, chisel some ice in there and turn it into a slushy. But I really want to know the comments below what people think.
I'd be curious about the best margarita recipe.
We always end up talking about food or sports. I threw in some volleyball.
Yeah. Thank you for the volleyball.
Anyway, so also lastly in the comments below, please guys let us know the other spoilers. Not spoilers. What are those things called?
They're like the eggs, right? Yeah.
Yeah. They're spoilers for other people, but Easter eggs for this episode. So please let us know in the comments below about that.
I have one. I don't know as it really is one, but when Freeman is talking to the Admiral, who I think is unnamed, and behind her, this is like a trope that I think Star Trek uses with captains and admirals. It's all of the navigation stuff, like the spyglass and like the everything you'd see on an old-time ship, basically. Okay, maybe not an Easter egg.
But very interesting nonetheless. Also, a couple NAMs.
Maybe the less.
We got another NAM for Kirk when she said spear, you know, and maybe Spock. We'll have to go back and listen to that Kirk Spock thing. I also thought it was nice that the Enterprise got another NAM, even though it's not really a person, but it's cool.
Those multitaskers over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, multitasker.
All right. I think we've done a lot of good today. I think we're going to have to move on and let everybody pick up the discussion after this. Tell us what we missed and tell us the margarita especially. And we'll see you next time. Remember to subscribe, or as Cirroc always says, subscribe.
Subscribe. Yeah.
Yeah, early and often.
Yes, keep your ears open.
That's true. So for Cirroc Lofton, for Mr. Homer Frizzell, and for Carmen Shamwell, PJ Tomas, TJ Jackson-Bey, Mr. Bill Victor Arucan, Yvette Blackmon, Eve, I knew it was coming, Eve England out in Wales, Dr. Marie Segal, Mr. Titus Mohler, and Mr. Tim Baum, who will be with us next week. My name is Ryan T. Husk, and always remember the seventh rule.